Today we're going to be taking a look at what might be the most overpriced LEGO Star Wars set of all time, that of course being 75413 Republic Juggernaut. This set will be releasing on August 1st with only 813 pieces and a retail price of $160. If you thought the MTT was overpriced, get a load of this guy. Not only is it extremely overpriced, but it's also one of the most controversial sets of recent years as well. One of the reasons being that we finally have Commander Bakara and Galactic Marines now, some minifigures that we have been asking for over a decade at this point. However, they come in a turbo tank, and I don't want to spend too long talking about this, but yes, I personally do think this should have been a UT-AT, but no, it's a turbo tank, which doesn't really make much sense. And recently, LEGO actually came out in a blog post that they did an interview with them, and they basically just said the turbo tank is a popular vehicle, and we threw these minifigures in here because they have been requested for a long time. In other words, they didn't really consider the UT-AT at all. But yeah, at this point, other people have talked about this so much that I don't really care to discuss it anymore. But if you want to know my opinion, I do think it should have been a UT-AT. But that's not even the biggest controversy surrounding this set. The main thing everyone is talking about is that the build is allegedly extremely fragile. If you've watched other people's reviews, they always show it breaking apart in their hands, and this definitely sounds kind of ironic, but that's probably the one thing that I'm most excited for to check out with this set. I've seen everyone else's reviews, but I just want to see for myself how fragile this thing actually is. Anyways though, on the back of the box, you're going to find another render of the set showcasing how it can open up with what looks to be Megiddo as the background. They're clearly not on the bridge as seen in the movie, but there are some bridges in the background here, so I guess this setting is intended to be Megiddo. And then as always, up at the top right, you're gonna have some pictures showcasing the set's play features. Opening up the box and digging in, on the inside you're just gonna find 6 numbered bags. Yes, 6 numbered bags for a $160 set, along with your instruction manual and your sticker sheet inside this paper bag type case, with the sticker sheet having 7 stickers on it and the instruction manual being your very basic modern LEGO instructions, with a huge advertisement at the back of all of the August sets. Taking a look at the 5 actual minifigures that come in this set, first up here we have Commander Bakara. I just want to get him out of the way, and I'm not gonna lie, this is one of the most disappointing clone troopers LEGO has ever made, and it's mainly because of that helmet. I honestly don't know how they messed up the mold on it so bad. The fat cheeks on it look ridiculous. I mean, it looks like freaking Theodore from Alvin and the Chipmunks. I mean, as you can see there, the cheeks clearly bulge out a little bit like he's holding his breath or something, and it just completely ruins the entire look of this helmet. I mean, when you look at the actual source material, his helmet does not look like that on the sides, and almost every custom minifigure company gets his helmet right, but the official LEGO version cannot, and it just doesn't make any sense. It's like, how did they mess up the mold this bad? After literally almost 20 years of us waiting for this figure, getting this is just super underwhelming. And then on top of that, obviously he doesn't have a physical waist cape, which just doubles down on it. The chest printing looks good though, I'm happy with that. The bag printing also looks fine too, and then underneath this helmet you're going to find the typical modern clone trooper head, but man, the helmet itself and the lack of a waist cape is just so disappointing. I mean, I don't even know what else to say. I've never been one to use the term slop trooper, but this is a sloppy clone trooper. Now, the Galactic Marines on the other hand definitely do look a bit better than Bakara. They're in no way perfect, but at the very least, they're a bit more aesthetically pleasing. The main problem on these guys is just the lack of a waist cape. I think the torso prints and even the leg prints look really good too. He just needs a waist cape. The helmet is also solid too. It's definitely not as accurate as it could be. I think the front white section should come down a bit further. And also, technically, these guys' eyes are supposed to be dark green instead of black, which a lot of people have been pointing out recently. However, I personally have to say I don't really care about this, because in most shots of these guys you can't even tell their eyes are dark green, so I don't really care about that. But the waist cape on the other hand is a big issue. LEGO needs to just freaking fix that already. And then on the back side, one thing I need to point out is that his backpack doesn't have a printed tile, and this is honestly crazy because almost every trooper backpack that LEGO makes like this always has this tile printed, whether it be the snowtroopers or the first order snowtroopers or even the heavy troopers in the 501st Specialist Battle Pack. They all have this tile printed. I mean, they can do it in a $20 battle pack, but on this Galactic Marine in a $160 set, they can't print this tile like they have on all the other troopers in the past. I mean, the corner cutting is just so blatantly obvious at this point. But regardless, underneath his backpack, you are going to find some more printing on his backside, and then he as well is going to have the modern clone trooper head. Again, these guys look a lot better than Bakara does. However, there are still just so many inaccuracies and blatant flaws with them. It honestly honestly is just really disappointing. But then lastly here we have Ki-Adi-Mundi, the only figure in this set that has no flaws. This is a new Ki-Adi-Mundi. The last one we got was all the way back in 2018, and it looks really good. It's fairly simple, but I think LEGO did a great job on it. Great printing on the front and the back, and you can also get a good look at that nice headpiece. And if you're wondering, here is what the older one from 2018 looks like next to it. As you can see, they are very similar figures. They just have ever so slightly different printing. And then lastly, you're going to get 3 normal B1 battle droids. Really nothing much to see there. Overall, this minifigure lineup on paper is great. However, executed, it's very sloppy. Especially Bakara. I mean, good lord, I don't understand how they messed up his helmet mold that bad. And again, the Galactic Marines are a bit better. However, they're still missing their waist capes, and they don't have printed tiles on their backpacks. In my opinion, Ki-Adi-Mundi really is the only good figure in this set. Anyways though, now taking a look at the actual build, I'll be the one to stand up and say this. I like how it looks. I'm not saying it's perfect though. There are a lot of problems and inaccuracies with this build. However, purely from an aesthetic standpoint, not thinking about the accuracies, not thinking about the price, not thinking about the minifigures, the build itself does look pretty cool. However, again, that's purely from an aesthetic standpoint because there are a lot of problems with this thing, and I'm going to dive into all of that. But first, I want to talk about the size of this thing, and for $160, yes, it's very small. As you can see me handling it here, it's just a small model. It's definitely the smallest turbo tank LEGO has made. Now it actually is ever so slightly larger than the MTT, which also retails for $160. The MTT is a way more detailed and way more intricate and way more heavily designed build. However, the turbo tank does take up a slightly larger footprint if you were curious about that. But at the same time, this also doesn't really matter because both of these sets are extremely overpriced. It starts to really go downhill when you compare the turbo tank to other $160 sets that are on shelves right now that came out last year and the year before. Here we have it next to the Star Destroyer that released last year that also has a retail price of $160. And as you can tell, the Star Destroyer is significantly larger. It's honestly insane that they cost the same price. Most of the size in this turbo tank is really just empty space because the wheels are so wide. And then here we have it next to the 2022 ATTE, which is also out on shelves right now, and it has a retail price of $140, $20 less than this turbo tank. And as you can tell, it is also quite a bit larger. Definitely not as big as the Star Destroyer, but there is a noticeable size difference here. And it's just crazy because this set costs $20 less. And then when you start looking at the set's price per gram, it goes downhill even further. As you guys know, I have been using price per gram recently as a metric to determine the value of these sets. It's not perfect, however, it is significantly more efficient and way better than price per piece because pieces obviously vary in size pretty drastically, and common sense says that this larger piece is slightly more expensive for LEGO to make than this smaller piece. And again, neither metric is perfect, but price per gram is a lot more consistent and a lot more efficient, so that's why I use it. And historically, for high price playsets like this turbo tank, the average price per gram comes out to about 17 cents, so I consider that to be the bare minimum. And according to the added up weight of the piece inventory on Bricklink, this set's total weight comes out to only 664 grams. So with a $160 retail price, that comes out to a price per gram of 24.1 cents, which is absolutely ridiculous. So now if we take the bare minimum average of 17 cents per gram and apply it to the weight of this set, it comes out to about $110. So that right there tells you that this set is arguably $50 more expensive than it should be. However, like I pointed out in the MTT review, 17 cents per gram is the bare minimum. Jango Fett Slave 1 that's releasing alongside this turbo tank has a price per gram of only 15.6 cents. Take that and apply it to the weight of this set, and it comes out to about $100. And if you're wondering, here are the price per grams of the two sets I compared it to earlier, that being the Star Destroyer and the ATTE, as well as the price per gram of the 2023 Ghost. All three of these sets being significantly better deals. So there you have it. Based on that alone, this set is really about $50 more expensive than it should be, which is just so ridiculous on LEGO's part. It's honestly laughable. And honestly, I'm kind of starting to think that since this set is so overpriced, the original pitch for the design might have been for it to retail for around $120. Let's say LEGO was like, hey, we need a $120 turbo tank, design a turbo tank within those parameters, and that's what the designers did, and they made this set right here. But then after the design process was finalized, LEGO actually might have been like, hey, maybe we can milk some more money out of the fans because it has Galactic Marines, and then that's why it's now $160. I know when you consider the actual design process of these sets, that theory sounds very far-fetched because usually LEGO sets the prices before they design their models. However, again, since the set is so overpriced, that theory starts to make sense. In my personal opinion, I wouldn't recommend paying more than $120 for this set, and even that is pushing it a little. But now that you know that this set is $50 overpriced, price, let's actually take a deep dive into the model itself and see what it has to offer. Again, like I pointed out earlier, I really like how it looks. I mean, I'm not joking about that. I think aesthetically, it looks really good. However, it's not perfect, which I'll get to, but starting off with the wheels, they work pretty much perfectly. They roll very easily. They're super seamless. And when you lean the turbo tank side to side, you can kind of steer the thing, as you can see here, which is an awesome feature. I mean, it's super satisfying when you lean it side to side and the wheels just move on their own. And here's what that wheel mechanism looks like from the bottom if you wanted to see that. Now, in my opinion, the actual wheels themselves do look good as well. Despite them most likely being brick built just to raise the piece count of this set, I think they look good at the very least. And yes, I think even the sand blue looks good too. And it's also actually fairly accurate. If you look at pictures of an actual turbo tank, you can see that in the wheels there are some lighter bluish gray colors. And I'm not gonna lie, I actually have to give props to LEGO here for actually trying to recreate that look. It's not what we're used to, however, I definitely think it's an attempt of accuracy towards the actual source material, and I like how it kind of mixes up the colors a little bit. And then right above the wheels, you're gonna find these pieces angled downwards that are kind of supposed to represent the suspension of the turbo tank. They obviously don't do anything, but they give this area a cool look, which I appreciate. But now moving on to the front of the build, this is where the accuracy starts to go downhill. Specifically with these sand blue circular pieces, they're just not supposed to be sand blue on the actual turbo tank. They're clearly a dark gray color, and I just don't understand how LEGO messed this up. I guess they were trying to match it with the sand blue of the wheels. However, that's not what they needed to do, because while the wheels do have sand blue colors in them, these round pieces on the source material do not, so there's really no reason why they should be this color. Moving on down though, you're going to see the blue transparent window pieces. I've also seen people pointing out how this isn't accurate. However, unlike that circular piece on top, in some pictures these windows actually do appear to be a bluish color, and in other pictures they appear to be a grayish color, which is what we're used to. So I think in this case the color could actually go both ways, and on top of that I actually kind of like the blue look of the windows on here. Oh, and also there's a big sticker on the front right there if you didn't notice that already. From there, this whole entire front section can very easily open up to access a pretty small and basic interior. There's not a whole lot in there, just a chair and a sticker control panel, and I guess you can take one of your Galactic Marines and sit him in here. However, what's ironic is that you have to take his backpack off in order to sit him in this seat. And the reason this is ironic is because one of LEGO's reasons for not giving us physical wastegapes anymore is that they get in the way of sitting figures down. But I guess for some reason right here, this backpack getting in the way doesn't matter. Right behind this front section, you're going to find the Scout Tower, which is just blatantly inaccurate. It's supposed to be a bucket shape like on all the old turbo tanks, but that's not what they did here. And it's just like, I don't understand how they can mess up something so simple like this. And the same thing goes for those round blue pieces on the front. I mean, literally just look at the source material for what you're designing. But no, I guess LEGO can't do that for some reason. Regardless though, you can take one of your Galactic Marines and sit him up here on top of the Scout Tower, and it can move up and down. However, there's nothing that stops it, so if you're not careful, you can just pull it all the way out. However, I actually kind of like this because since the Scout Tower is inaccurate, you can just take it out and display the turbo tank without it. The sides here are very tiled off and have a nice clean look that I appreciate. However, one thing I don't appreciate is the placement of these stud shooters that are supposed to represent the rockets on the side of the turbo tank. If you just look at any picture of the source material, it shows that they're at the top. It's actually kind of crazy. They're placed right at the bottom in the same spot that they should be placed at the top. And I guess you can just take these off if you don't like this. However, that still doesn't excuse LEGO's laziness here. Like the other inaccuracies I've already pointed out, this should have been a super easy fix. I don't know how they messed this up. On the top, there's not much to see, just this tiny little cannon that can rotate around. And then from there, this whole entire front section can very easily open up, and the top pops off too. However, one thing that is super annoying about this is that it's not connected by any studs. It just simply lays on there. And after handling this set quite a bit, I have found this super annoying because it either just falls off very easily, or sometimes when you're putting it back on, it can actually fall inside like this. And it's just really annoying. I mean, I don't understand why this couldn't have just been attached normally with some studs. But then taking a look at the actual interior, there's really not much to see. There's just 4 seats where you can sit your clone troopers, and then this little trench looking area in the middle where you can stand one up. I mean, I think it looks fine. However, compared to previous turbo tanks, it is super lackluster. And then right behind that, there's a little bit more room where you could stand a figure up, I guess. And this can also be accessed by flipping up this top panel right here. But again, it's not much, especially compared to the previous turbo tanks LEGO has made. But then from there, moving on to the backside, it looks alright, I guess. There's just some minimal detail here and there. The sides, however, can not open up. As you can see here, they move a little bit, but that's mainly just to accomplish the shaping of the turbo tank. They can't open up like they do in the front half, which is actually really lame because there's a lot of empty space in here that could have been used for the interior, but no, you can't access it. On the back right here, you're going to find a little stud shooter cannon where you can grab one of your Galactic Marines and sit him back here. And I'm not going to lie, he actually does look pretty cool behind this cannon. However, when you don't have a figure in there, there's literally just an open hole into the inside of the turbo tank, which just doesn't make make any sense. I don't understand why this couldn't have been covered up. From there, the very back side looks fine. There's just some more blue transparent pieces as well as a sticker, and then two very short cannons down here at the bottom. Now, the only way to access this interior back here is just by lifting up this top panel. Like I said, the sides can't fold down and the front can't fold down either, so the access is very limited. However, on the inside, it's very similar to the front. It's just a cockpit with a sticker control panel, really nothing much. And you can grab one of your Galactic Marines, make sure to take off his backpack, and then you can sit him in there, and then obviously close the hatch back up. And that is really all this turbo tank has to offer. However, obviously, there's still one thing we gotta take a look at, and that is if this set is actually fragile. And I'm gonna be 100% honest here, besides this top panel that falls off because it's not connected by any studs, this set did not fall apart in my hands one time. As you can see here, when you pick up the set normally by the back end, which is where the fragile part is, nothing happens. I mean, here you can see I'm even suspending the weight in the fragile area and it's not falling apart. However, the moment you do add a little bit of force, that's when it does start to kind of crumble apart. And this whole back section just breaks off, as you can see here. Again, it doesn't happen when you pick up the set normally. As you can see here, I'm pretty aggressively yanking it up and it's not falling apart. But yeah, the moment you start shaking it a little, that's when it starts to all go downhill and it just crumbles apart in your hands. And despite it not falling apart when you handle it normally, the fact that it does fall apart when you just ever so slightly shake it a little bit is definitely a design flaw. I know most of you guys would not handle the set like this, however, it shouldn't break apart this easily. And the reason it breaks apart is because, as you can see here on the back side, there aren't any Technic pins holding it down. I feel like everyone is kind of just telling you it breaks apart and not actually showing you why it breaks apart. And that's because this back side is held down by only these two columns right here and this plate that goes across. The front columns are held down by two Technic beams, as you can see here, but the back columns are not. And that is what leads to this back section breaking off when you handle it aggressively. I've seen a lot of people speculating recently that LEGO might actually fix this. And to be honest, I don't really know if they're going to do that or not. There have been cases in the past where there have been issues with sets and LEGO has fixed them. The most recent one off the top of my head is the stand on the UCS X-Wing. If any of you guys remember, there was a problem where when you sat the model on the stand, a few pieces on the stand would actually snap off. And then pretty soon after the set's released, they actually fixed that. And I'm pretty sure there were some other cases too, like an issue with the 2002 Jango Fett Slave 1. So again, like I said, LEGO has fixed stuff like this in the past, but with this set, I honestly don't know if they're going to do it or not. I'm just going to have to wait and see. But anyways though, that is the new clone turbo tank, one of the most controversial sets ever released. And yeah, for good reason. There are a lot of problems with this thing, and then the cherry on top is that it's literally $50 overpriced. From the inaccuracies of the build, to the fragility of it, to the sloppy minifigures, there's just a lot of issues. Like I said, from purely an aesthetic standpoint on the outside, not considering the price, not considering the minifigures, not considering the inaccuracies, the set actually does look pretty cool. It is a decent display piece. And also Ki-Adi-Mundi looks good too, but those two things are just not enough to save this set considering all the other things that are wrong with it. The main thing really being the price point. I mean, it is disgustingly overpriced. So because of that, I'm feeling a 4 out of 10 for this set. If you have $160 to spend on a set, please do not get this. Either get the Star Destroyer or the Ghost from 2023. You will be much happier with your purchase with one of those sets and not this one. So let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing. And if you want to check out more videos, you can see the screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at 75431 327th Star Corps Clone Troopers Battle Pack. This set just released on August 1st with 258 pieces and a retail price of $45 US. And I don't want to beat the dead horse anymore in the beginning of the video here. I'll dive more into the price later on in the video, but yes, it's overpriced. I'm pretty sure everybody knows that. It's honestly insane that this set cost 50% more than the battle pack that released last year that is the same size. And I'm not going to lie, seeing these two sets on shelves next to each other in the stores is just insane. I'm sure you've seen pictures on Instagram and Reddit of this. You have two sets that are the same size, with one being $45 and one being $30. And they're always right next to each other in stores, and it looks so bizarre. And also, not to mention that one 3-in-1 set that just came out that has the other battle pack along with two other sets and also costs $45, the same as this battle pack. So again, yeah, the price is bad. However, like I said, I'll dive more into the pricing of battle packs later on in this video. But anyways, as you can see here, this set is based off of Felucia with the 327th Clone Troopers, some Clone Troopers that LEGO has not made in years. The last time they made one of these guys was all the way back in 2013. And as you can see, you also get 2 builds, which are surprisingly really good. And we'll take a look at all of that. On the back of the box, you're going to find just another render of this set. And then opening the box up and digging in on the inside, you're going to find just 3 numbered bags, along with 2 instruction manuals, one for your ATRT and one for your spider droid, and a small sticker sheet with 5 stickers on it. Moving on to the long-awaited 327th clone troopers here. Yeah, I mean, they're modern clone troopers, alright. The printing on the helmet looks good, the printing on the torso looks good, the printing on the back looks good. However, like I said, they're modern phase 2 clone troopers, so obviously they're not going to have a physical waist cape, and they're going to have exposed helmet holes. And both these issues are annoying. However, I honestly think the waist cape is the more annoying issue out of the two, because it's just such an easy fix, and LEGO's reasoning for not making physical waist capes is just so ridiculous. They claim that you can't set the figure down when it has a physical waist cape on, which first of all, it's just not true. You can. And second of all, if it's that big of a deal, you can just take the waist cape off. In the turbo tank that just released, the Galactic Marines have backpacks that get in the way of them sitting down in their seats, so you have to take their backpacks off. And it seems like if LEGO was consistent, they would have just printed those backpacks, wouldn't they? But no, they gave those Galactic Marines physical backpacks, so this trooper needs a physical waist cape. And then also you have the helmet holes, and I mean, I know people hate when I talk about this, but I just voice my own opinion, and I don't think they look good. The new rangefinder piece looks great. However, in the copy I got, at least, there's only 3 rangefinders, and there's obviously 4 clone troopers, so that just leaves 1 with no helmet accessories, which is the whole reason for these helmet holes in the first place. And again, I know most people hate when I talk about this, but I just don't think they look good. The thing I care about most with these clone troopers is aesthetic appeal, and the 2 things that affect the aesthetic appeal the most are the lack of a waist cape and the exposed helmet holes. And whether you like it or not, the exposed helmet holes just make the clone trooper look not as good as the old ones that we got. As you can see here, the shaping on the helmet on the right is just objectively better. Whether you like it or not, that's just how it is. So because of that, I just think LEGO needs to redesign the Phase 2 helmet. They need to make it to where it has proper shaping and helmet holes, and not where the helmet holes ruin the entire look. And in the meantime, until they do that, they need to include accessories for all the clone troopers that come in these sets. Every single Phase 2 clone trooper set needs to have an accessory bag that has macro binoculars, rangefinders, and the visors. The fact that they don't include a variety of accessories in these sets is just super annoying. On the bright side though, the trooper does have a new pauldron piece, which I went more in depth on with Commander Bly in my MTT review, but in short, I'm happy with it. I think it looks really good. From some angles, specifically the sides and back angles, it does look really wide. However, that's so the arm can move back and forth. So again, overall, I think these look good. LEGO did a great job with these. However, the lack of a waist cape and the helmet holes do not look good. Redesign the helmet and give these troopers physical waist capes. And in the meantime, again, include enough accessories for all these troopers. It's just ridiculous that these sets don't come with accessories. And then on top of that, you're just going to have 3 super battle droids. These are the new ones that they introduced last year, and I like these guys. I think LEGO did a good job on the redesign here. On paper, for a super battle pack, excluding the price, this minifigure lineup is solid. However, again, the clone troopers have their problems, and then, oh man, is this not enough for $45 at all. For the price they're charging for this set, I mean, it should have, gosh, at least 6 clone troopers, I think, along with an extra super battle droid and some regular battle droids as well. What we have here is just not anywhere close to being worth $45. Now, the builds, on the other hand, like I said at the beginning, look really good. Yes, this set is disgustingly overpriced and the clone troopers have numerous problems, but man, these 2 builds right here are incredible. I guess first we'll start off with this new dwarf spider droid design, and oh my gosh, LEGO blew this out of the water. The head, as you can see here, is completely redesigned, and it just looks incredible. It is extremely accurate to the source material, and then obviously on the front you're gonna have its cannon that can move up and down, and then its legs that allow for posability. But man, again, this is easily the best dwarf spider droid LEGO has ever made by a long shot. It's honestly such a shame that this comes in such a trashy, expensive set, because it looks very good, and that becomes even more evident when you compare it to the old design here. I mean, as you can see, they just drastically improved the head so much. It looks incredible. Now, one thing I do gotta point out though is that on the legs, there's actually an extra joint on this new model, totaling for 4 joints, while the old models only have 3 joints. And because of that, posing the legs is actually super tedious and can be kind of annoying sometimes. But because the actual build looks so good and so accurate, that's easy to look past. And then moving on to the ATRT, like the dwarf spider droid, it also looks great. I think this is a contender for the best oversized ATRT LEGO has ever designed. However, there's one thing I really don't like about it, and that is the stud shooter on the front as the main cannon. I'm not gonna gonna lie, it just looks freaking diabolical right here. And when you try to move it up and down, the front often breaks off, as you can see here. But again, it just looks freaking ugly. And this is actually kind of annoying because LEGO has integrated stud shooters into ATRTs in the past and actually did a good job at it. So because of that, I honestly just like to take the stud shooter off. I think it looks a lot better. So besides the stud shooter, the actual main body and the legs looks good. Again, I think it's a contender for the best ATRT LEGO has made. And as some of you guys might know, I actually really like the oversized LEGO ATRTs because LEGO is able to pack a lot of detail into them, and this is a great example of that. This set is extremely detailed. On the front here, you're going to see very impressive shaping for such a small area. However, there are stickers on here, and I did an awful job of putting these on, specifically these ones in the front here. I did not line them up at all, so that's kind of annoying, but at least the actual design of this area looks good. And then from there, moving on to the seat, it also looks good. Again, a very small area, but there's lots of detail packed into here. And then obviously you're going to have the antennas on the back, and then a little printed control panel. The legs can also move as you'd expect them to. However, I wish they could go forward a little bit more, because when you sit the thing down, it doesn't really have that slouch sort of leaning forward look that these ATRTs are supposed to have, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. And then from there, you can have the feet, and they also are designed very well. And as you'd expect, you can grab one of your clone troopers and sit him in the driver's seat, and then there is a clip on the back to hold his blaster. And again, besides the diabolical stud shooter on the front, this ATRT just looks beautiful. And honestly, I think this build has a lot of potential for really good color swapping. You could make an awesome 501st ATRT, an awesome 212th ATRT, or maybe even something like a 187th ATRT for the purple clone troopers. I think that would look really good, and honestly, I actually think I might do that. And then last and least for the build, you're gonna have this tiny little stud shooter cannon, which is really nothing to see. And that right there is really all there is to this $45 battle pack. And now I actually want to dive into the pricing problem with this set. A lot of people don't realize this, but battle packs are kind of the area where LEGO gets away with overpricing the most. If you take the 2009 Clone Walker battle pack, which was $10 on release and adjusted for inflation, it comes out to $15 in today's money, which, as we all know, battle packs got raised to $20 back in 2022, and now today LEGO is using tariffs as an excuse to raise them to $23. And the obvious argument for this is, oh well, today battle packs have more intricate builds and the figures have more printing and detail on them, so yeah, this might add $2 to the price, raising the price from $15 to $17. These highly detailed figures that LEGO makes are not as expensive as most people think they are. So based on that, normal battle packs should not be any more than $17. And then you have these super battle packs like the 501st one from 2020, the one from last year, and then this one. And LEGO is charging small playset prices for these sets. I mean, this new battle pack is $5 more than Jedi Bob Starfighter that released last year. So since LEGO is gonna charge playset prices for these battle packs, I have to use the price per gram metric on them. And historically, for small playsets in the price range of $20 to $45, the average price per gram has come out to about 20 cents adjusted for inflation. However, these super battle packs have absurd price per grams. Like the 501st battle pack, its price per gram adjusted for inflation is 25.7 cents. The one that released last year has a price per gram of 26.7 cents. And this new one has a price per gram of 44.1 cents. It's just honestly insane. Like I said, this is where LEGO gets away with overpricing the most. These battle packs, including the 501st one from 2020, should not be more than $25. And honestly, even $25 is pushing it. I honestly don't think they should be more than $23, which is super ironic considering the fact that the one that released last year is constantly on sale on Amazon for $23.99. And then there's always the people that say, oh, well, in these sets, you're not paying for the builds, you're paying for the number of minifigures, that's why they're more expensive. And okay, well, if you think that, let's take a look at the Rebel Scout Speeder and the Imperial Dropship set that was released last year. That set has 7 real minifigures, that being 3 Stormtroopers, 3 Rebels, and the 25th anniversary figure. So 7 real minifigures, not 4 clone troopers and a few droids, 7 actual figures, and it retailed for $40 with a weight of 273.4 grams, coming out to a price per gram of 15 cents. So that right there shows you that LEGO has been scamming the crap out of us with these super battle packs. So in my opinion, if they're going to continue to release super battle packs at a price point of $30+, they need to have more minifigures. I'm talking 6 to 8 clone troopers along with the battle droids, and the builds need to be more intricate, not just bare bones side builds. And this is actually kind of what that Imperial and Rebel battle pack from last year did right. It includes 7 real minifigures and pretty intricate builds. Now mind you, the builds aren't the greatest looking, especially that dropship, it is pretty ugly, but at the very least, it's compact, it has a lot of pieces, and it actually feels high quality. It's not just a bare bones side build. And that's what leads to a price per gram of 15 cents, actually making this set a good value, unlike these other ones. So in a perfect world, $17 for normal battle packs and no more than $25 for these super battle packs. But at the end of the day, we are talking about LEGO here, so these prices are never going to go down. But at the very least, I'm just trying to put it it in perspective for you guys. So $30 is already too much, but since this set is $45, it's obviously just insane, and because of that, I cannot give it a good rating, and it's really kind of a shame because I like the Spider Droid, I like the ATRT, but it's just stupidly overpriced, literally about $20 more than it should be. So because of that, I'm feeling a 3.5 out of 10 for this one. Like the title says, I really do think this is going to be the last Super Battle Pack, or at least the last Super Battle Pack for a long time, because it's just not going to sell at all. I mean, in the stores, it's literally placed right next to the one from last year, and the one from last year is $15 cheaper. And nobody in their right mind, especially parents buying sets for their kids, are gonna pick this 327th one over the one from last year where they see the price points. So because of that, this set is just not gonna sell, and I think it's gonna be the last Super Battle Pack for a long time. Anyways though, let me know what you guys think about this set down in the comments below. If you do, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more videos, you can see on the screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at 75432 V19 Torrent Starfighter. This set just released on August 1st with 567 pieces and a retail price of only $65, which is actually a really fair price point, especially compared to the other sets that released this wave. Now, I'm actually really excited to take a look at this thing because the original V19 Torrent is one of my favorite sets of all time, and I think taking a look at a modern version of this ship is going to be really fun. However, by no means is this a perfect set. From a few issues with the build to the minifigures, we're going to take a look at all of it. On the back of the box, you're going to find another render of the set, and as you can see, it doesn't really look the greatest in its landing position. And then per usual, you're going to have some pictures up at the top right corner that show off the set's play features. Now, opening up the box and digging in, on the inside, you're just going to find 5 separate numbered bags, along with your instructions and a small sticker sheet with only 6 stickers on it. Moving on to the minifigures here, first off, we'll start with this new clone pilot, and I'm going to be honest, I'm kind of all over the place on this figure. I have mixed feelings about it. I think this new helmet mold does look really good. I mean, obviously, they finally got it accurate. It has accurate shaping. There's not a fin on the back. However, one thing that kind of threw me off about it is that it is really, really large, like bigger than I was expecting it to be. It does make it look a tad bit goofy, I'm not gonna lie. And this is pretty evident when you compare it to just the normal modern Phase 1 clone trooper. As you can see here, that helmet is a bit smaller and a bit slimmer. It's not the end of the world, and after all, I'm pretty sure it's accurate. I think the pilot's helmets are bigger anyway. I just thought it was something worth pointing out. But the main thing people are talking about with this helmet is obviously the printing on the front. And it definitely doesn't look bad. I wouldn't say it's as big of an issue as like the helmet holes or the printed waist capes. However, it doesn't look as good as it could, and this is obviously very evident when you look at how it's shown on the box. As you can see, the printing is noticeably different, with the black lines on the visor going all the way to the sides of the helmet, and then in the real version, they don't do that. And again, this doesn't look bad. It doesn't ruin the aesthetic of the figure. However, it's just not as good as it could look, and the best it could look is what's shown on the box and in the product images. And also on top of that, it is just really frustrating that we don't get what's shown on the box and in the product images. And I mean, I've seen people complaining about the actual helmet print looking bad, and I don't even think that's that big of an issue. I think the big issue is just the fact that it doesn't look the same as it does on the box, or vice versa. That's just really dumb on LEGO's part. Make the box print look the same as the real figure, or make the real figure look the same as the box print, whatever. But still, again, at the end of the day, the figure doesn't look terrible. It just doesn't look as good as it could, and the best it could look is what's shown on the box. And then obviously underneath the helmet, you're going to have the modern clone trooper head print. But moving on to a figure that actually doesn't have any issues, that being this new Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it looks incredible. There's literally nothing wrong with this figure. It's got great printing on the front and the back, and then it's obviously got great arm printing on both sides. I mean, this is easily the best Obi-Wan Kenobi figure LEGO has ever made. It's not even close. And then as you can see here, he's also going to have a double-sided face. And then next up here, we have another perfect looking figure, that being Asajj Ventress, the first one we've gotten since 2015. And just like Kenobi, this figure is flawless. I love the bright, vibrant purple, and I think it also goes really good with the white. She's also got a cool face print, and then as you can see on the back of her head, she's got a pretty gnarly head print on the back here too. And then of course, she's also going to come with the curved lightsaber hilts. The first time LEGO has made these in quite a few years as well. Overall, this minifigure lineup is really, really good. I mean, it's just a perfect little lineup of characters from the Clone Wars movie, and I think it works great for the V19 Torrent, with Asajj Ventress and Kenobi really being some of, if not the best figures that have come out in 2025 so far. It's just that pilot, man. The helmet print, again, doesn't look bad, but it should look how it looks on the box, because the box is the better version, in my opinion. Taking a look at the actual model here, the first thing I have to say is I really, really do not like how this thing looks in its landed position. However, I'll talk about that more here in a minute. First off, I want to talk about the price point of this thing, because it's actually a good deal. There is another $65 set that is currently on shelves right now, and that is the TIE Bomber from 2023. And as you can see here, the TIE Bomber is ever so slightly larger, which is mainly due to its wings, but overall they are relatively the same size. They both look like they would cost the same price. And then when talking about this set's price per gram, usually sets of this price point and this size have a price per gram of about 17 cents on average, so I really considered that to be the standard. And according to the added up weight of the piece inventory of this set on Bricklink, it has a total weight of 424 grams with a $65 price point, coming out to a price per gram of just 15.3 cents, which is a really solid deal, and it actually makes it the set with the lowest price per gram out of the entire LEGO Star Wars 2025 August wave, with the Playscale Jango Fett Slave 1 following right behind it. So yeah, $65 is a really good deal for this set, especially compared to the Turbo Tank and the MTT. But now I actually want to dive into the model and talk about everything that it offers. I do have to say, one thing I really appreciate about it is that it is super clean looking. As you can see around this cockpit area, it is just perfectly tiled off, very clean, very sleek. And then the cockpit itself is going to be a yellow transparent piece, which is definitely different looking from the clear transparent piece on the old V19 Torrent. However, if you look in universe, a yellow cockpit is actually accurate. And then opening up the cockpit on the inside, there's really not much, just a seat and a small stickered control panel, which actually does look pretty cool. And then obviously, as you'd expect, you can grab the clone pilot and sit him down in the seat. Now, despite this area around the cockpit looking really sleek, I do have to say, I do not like these stickers on the front. I mean, when you put them on correctly, it doesn't look bad. It's just the fact that you have to line them up perfectly. And if you don't, it really could potentially ruin the look of the front of the set here. If these stickers were on the wings or something or on the back, I don't think it'd matter that much. But since they're on the very front where you can easily risk ruining the entire look of the model, I think these should have been printed. Now again, this set is sleek and tiled off, which I appreciate. However, like I briefly mentioned earlier, I do not like how this set looks in its landed position. And there's two main reasons for that. The first is that there's literally no landing gear, so it sits completely flat on the ground. And I just do not like how this looks. I think it gives it such an incomplete feel. And you can really see how the lack of landing gear hinders the look of the set when you compare it to the older one, which is obviously much larger, but I'm talking about the landing gear here. As you can see, the slight elevation for the landing gear just does a lot for the older one, and the lack of it on this new one just doesn't look very appealing in my opinion. And then the second thing I really don't like about it is how far the back wing sticks out when it's folded up. I just really don't like the shaping of it like this, and this is again something that the older one is better at. The back wing doesn't stick out so far, and it definitely looks more appealing when it's folded up compared to this newer one where it's completely flat on the ground and the back wing sticks out. And honestly, I think that back wing sticking out so far is probably the reason there isn't any landing gear, because it would tip backwards. However, the narrative completely changes when you actually fold the wings down into its flying position. As you can see, you just grab the wings and fold them down. There's no insane mechanism like there is on the old one, and it looks really good like this. I mean, it is pretty much spot on accurate, which I love. And you actually can kind of display it in its flying position like this without the need for a stand. You can just lean it down on its side wing like this, and it actually looks pretty cool. It gives it kind of a dynamic flying look. However, I prefer to just throw some pieces on the bottom to get it to stand upright. And again, it looks super good. It's pretty much spot on accurate with how this ship looks in the Clone Wars. The wings are very sleek and clean looking, and as you can see, there's two stickers on this one with the stripes and the Republic logo. However, the right one only has one sticker because the Republic logo isn't there. And I'm not gonna lie, when I noticed this, I thought I just forgot to put the sticker on, but no, on the front of the box, one of the wings is just missing the Republic logo, so I guess it's how it's supposed to be. And then from there, you're gonna have the cannons at the bottom that look really good, and then you're gonna have some stud shooters on those that you can obviously fire as you want to. The third wing, when it's not folded back up in its landing position, also looks really good, and as you can see, there's a little engine intake right there in the middle, and then on the back, you're gonna have the actual thruster part of the engine, and then you're gonna see a little rod here, which is actually what holds it in place when it's in its landing position, because there's a little clip up here at the top. And while this definitely isn't as cool as the automatic function on the old one, it still works really well. And then from there, you're gonna have the two main engines, which are very simple, but they get the job done and they look decent. Overall, this is definitely one of the better August 2025 sets. It has its highs and its lows. However, I think the good outweighs the bad. When it's in its flying position, it's extremely clean and extremely accurate. I love how it looks. And then of course you have Obi-Wan Kenobi and Asajj Ventress, two of the best figures that have come out this year. Really, the only things I have against this set are again how it looks in its landing position, and then obviously the pilot, and then a few other small things here and there like the stickers on the front. Other than that, it looks great, has a great price point, and has really cool figures. So because of that, I'm feeling a solid 7.5 out of 10 for this one. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more videos, you see on the screen right now. Today we're going to be taking a look at 75435 Battle of Felucia Separatist MTT. The set will be releasing on August 1st with 976 pieces and a hefty price tag of $160. But I'll talk about the price more here in a minute. First off, I want to say I'm just honestly surprised that LEGO even made this set. If you would have asked me a year ago, I would have said that LEGO will never make a blue MTT. I honestly just always thought they'd only make the brown versions. I never thought we'd see a blue CIS model. I mean, last fall I even made a whole video about why this wouldn't happen, but lo and behold, in 2025 LEGO actually did it, and surprisingly it looks really good. However, this set is far from perfect, and we're going to dive into all of that throughout this video. On the back of the box you're going to find quite the scenes with some battle droids at the bottom right unloading stuff from the MTT, some droids over here that are dapping each other up, along with Commander Bly up at the top left corner capturing two other droids, and then like usual up at the top right you're going to have some pictures showcasing the set's play features. Opening up the box and digging in, on the inside you're going to find 8 separate numbered bags, along with your instruction manual and the sticker sheet inside this paper case, with the sticker sheet just having 4 small stickers on it, and the instruction manual being your typical modern LEGO instructions, just a very straightforward build process with a giant advertisement on the back showcasing all of the August sets. And if this looks familiar, it's because this is the picture that actually leaked a few months ago. Moving on to the minifigures, starting off with the one figure that's getting all the talk in this set, that of course being Commander Bly. After quite literally about 20 years of us asking LEGO to make this figure, they finally did it, and it's a bit underwhelming to say the least. In my personal opinion, there are 2 things that are wrong with this figure. The first being the gray printing on the cheeks on the helmet. I saw people online pointing this out and I didn't think much of it until I actually got this figure in hand, and I looked at the helmet and something did seem really off to me. So I looked up pictures of Bly in episode 3, and lo and behold, this section of his helmet is supposed to be yellow and not gray. And I was like, oh well, I guess that's why it looked really off to me. So yeah, I know it is a very small detail, but I really do think this section should be yellow. It would make the helmet look a lot better because the gray just doesn't look that great. And then the second problem is obviously the lack of a physical waist cape. I mean, in my personal opinion, the printed waist cape is just so aesthetically unappealing, especially with that new plastic shoulder pauldron, which I'll talk about here in a second. It just makes the figure look so top heavy and like a football player with giant pads on, and I just really don't like it at all. But onto that new shoulder pauldron piece, it looks really good. However, I do have to say, from some angles, specifically the side angles, it does look very wide, and this definitely could be off-putting to some people. However, the reason LEGO did this is so the arm can move back and forth. So in this case, despite it looking kind of off from this angle, I really do think they did the best they could. And then the rest of the figure, specifically the torso and the back printing, looks good too. When it comes to these clone troopers, I really care about aesthetic appeal over accuracy, and in my opinion, the only 2 things affecting the aesthetic appeal is again the lack of a waist cape and the gray on the helmet. All the other stuff people have been pointing out, like the ammo pouch on the chest or the chest being the wrong shade of yellow or whatever, I just think all of that stuff is ridiculous because it's honestly really hard to notice. Really, the only 2 bad things, in my opinion at least, are just the lack of a waist cape and the gray on the helmet. Everything else is just not very noticeable. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention, underneath the helmet you're gonna find the modern clone trooper face print. Next up here we have Ayla Secura, the first time LEGO has made this character since 2017, and it looks good. I really don't have much to say, just pretty average torso and face printing on the front and the back. Here you can get a nice look at that headpiece and then the printing underneath the headpiece on the back side, and then she's also gonna have a double-sided face. And if you're wondering, here is the old one from 2017, and they actually are quite noticeably different, especially with the face and torso prints. The headpiece is exactly the same as you can see here, but all the prints are different. And then next up here we have the commando droids, the first time LEGO has made commando droids since 2013, and obviously the controversy around these figures is that they are gunmetal gray and not brown like the old ones, and lots of people have been complaining about this because brown technically is the more accurate color. However, I'm not gonna lie, I know I'm definitely in the minority on this, but I really like how they look in gray. Despite them kind of being inaccurate, these are very clean looking figures, and they have a lot more printing detail on them than the older ones do. Here is one of the older ones for comparison. You can see that the newer one actually has quite a bit of chest printing going on that the older one doesn't have, and again, I just really like how it looks. And also, when you actually look at the source material of commando droids, a lot of times they're brown and a lot of times they can appear gray. So honestly, in my opinion, I think it could go both ways. They could either make it a brown figure or a gray figure, and it works just fine either way. And these figures kind of prove that because again, they just look really good in my opinion. And then lastly, you're gonna have 6 normal B1 battle droids, really nothing much to see there, along with the battle droid pilot, which is the exact one that came in the droid carrier from 2024. That, as you can see, has a very poor torso print. And I know these battle droid pilots have kind of always had these poor torso prints, but I'm not gonna lie, I mean, it's 2025, LEGO just fixed this already, put 2 layers of printing on there. Again, again, I know they've had this problem for the past 25 years, but fixing it late is better than not fixing it at all. Overall, on paper, this minifigure lineup is really solid. However, Commander Bly is just executed very poorly. Again, the two main problems are the waist cape and the gray printing on the helmet. Those are two things that I just think can't be ignored. LEGO really needs to fix these. But other than that, I like all the other figures in this set. Yes, even the commando droids. I think they look great. Now moving on to the actual build itself, I have to say this thing looks really good. I mean, it's an absolutely gorgeous model, extremely good detail, and extremely good shaping all around. I'm not gonna lie, in terms of just the build, this unironically could be argued to be the best MTT LEGO has made. Again, in terms of just the look of the build. However, this thing is small, like really small. Here you can see I can very easily like pick it up with one hand and kind of palm the thing. It's literally about the size of one of those Nerf foam footballs. I know it's a weird comparison, but that's what I thought of when I picked it up. And then it gets even crazier when you compare it to other sets that are in its price range. Here we have the 2023 Ghost and Phantom 2, which also retails for $160 and is also on shelves right now. And as you can see, it is significantly larger than this MTT. And it gets even worse. Here we have it next to the Star Destroyer that released last year, which is also $160 and also on shelves right now. And as you can see, it just absolutely dwarfs this MTT. It really is nearly twice the size, and it is the same retail price, and it is also out right now. And then here we have it next to the 2022 ATTE, which is $20 less at $140, and again is also out on shelves right now, and it is quite a bit larger too. It's definitely not as big as the Star Destroyer or the Ghost. However, there is definitely a noticeable size difference here, and it's insane because this set is $20 cheaper. And then if you're curious, here's what it looks like next to the 2007 MTT. It just absolutely dwarfs it. And while this model is small, that's only a bad thing because of its retail price. Again, it looks incredible. It's a very fun and intriguing build. It just should not be $160. As many of you guys know, I have been posting these price per gram comparisons on my community tab, and that's because I personally think this is the absolute best metric to measure the value of a LEGO set. I know price per piece has been the very popular standard for a long time. However, price per piece is such an awful metric just because of how drastically pieces vary in size. But price per gram, on the other hand, measures the actual amount of plastic in each set, so it's a much better metric to determine the value. And historically, throughout the 26 years of LEGO Star Wars, large play sets like this MTT have had an average price per gram of about 17 cents. So for play sets of this size, I consider 17 cents to be the bare minimum. And according to the added up weight of the piece inventory for this set on Bricklink, its total weight of just the plastic without the box and instructions comes out to 720 grams. And with a $160 retail price, that comes out to a price per gram of 22.2 cents, which is just absolutely insane. Now, if we take the bare minimum of 17 cents per gram and apply it to the weight of this set, it comes out to about $120. So based on just that right there, this set is $40 overpriced. But again, 17 cents per gram is just the bare minimum of sets this size. If we take a look at the new Playscale Jango Fett Slave 1 that releases alongside this MTT, it has a price per gram of only 15.6 cents, which if you apply a 15.6 cent price per gram to this MTT, it comes out to $110. And again, these two sets are releasing alongside each other. So that right there tells you that this set is at the very least $40 more expensive than it should be, which is just absolutely insane. It's disgustingly overpriced. Oh, and if you're wondering, here is the price per gram of all the sets that I compared it to earlier, that being the Ghost, the Star Destroyer, and the ATTE. So based off of all that information alone that I just showed you, I wouldn't recommend spending more than $120 on this set. The only reason I paid full price is so I can make this video. But enough talk about the price, let's actually take a deep dive into the set itself and go over all of the functionalities and play features. Starting off with the stat build here, just to get it out of the way. It's a new design, and it honestly looks very clean. I actually like this quite a bit, especially compared to the bulkier look of the older models. This new one just looks a lot cleaner and a lot sleeker, and it's very simple, but again, like I said, I think it looks really good. But now moving on to the MTT, on the front here, you're obviously going to have the printed dish piece, and for most people, this is kind of the highlight of this build. It's the only printed piece in this set, and it looks really good. However, one thing I do have to say about it is that the piece as a whole is attached very loosely. As you can see here, it wiggles around quite a bit, especially especially when you pick up the set and handle it a lot. And I'm not gonna lie, after a while, it does get kind of annoying. I wish this was attached on a little bit more securely. Moving on down to the bottom of the front, you're gonna find the two cannons on their ball turrets that you can obviously turn around and aim in any which direction you want to. I have seen a lot of talk about how the cannons on these ball turrets aren't long enough, and I'm gonna be honest, I actually think they look just fine. They could maybe be a little bit longer, but since the build as a whole is so small, the length of these cannons really doesn't matter. It looks just fine in my opinion. On the top here, you're gonna find these stud shooters that are implemented into the build very well. I mean, they surprisingly look really clean and really seamless up here. I think LEGO did a great job on this. And then of course, per usual, you can very easily fire them as you please. On the top here, you're gonna find a sticker of the two Vulture Droid looking eyes. That 100% should be a printed piece because as you can tell, the miscoloration of the gray on the sticker and the gray of the pieces is very noticeable. I mean, for the price you're paying for this set, there's really just no reason why this couldn't be printed. But regardless, this whole entire top section can open up very easily, giving you lots of space to the cockpit up here. And the cockpit itself is really not much to look at. It's a very simple design with one little stickered control panel up here. Well, actually I say control panel, but it looks to be like an actual diagram of the battle, which is pretty cool. And then you can take your battle droid pilot and put him up here. You kind of have to lay him down, and then you can fold the sides up and put the top back on very easily. And the shaping as a whole on this top section is super impressive. I mean, it looks incredible. There's lots of layering, lots of details, and I also just really like the shape of the very top, how it like slightly slopes downwards. It just looks really good. LEGO did a great job. And the great detail is going to continue on down to the sides here, where you're going to find these two stickered CIS logos, which like the Vulture Droid eyes on the front, should be printed because they're clearly a different shade of gray from the gray on the pieces, and for a set that's $40 overpriced, I think these could be printed pieces. But regardless though, this front section can actually open up. There's really nothing to see here besides these giant red arches and I guess a peek inside the droid rack in there. I honestly really don't see a reason for these being able to open up like this, but hey, it's there if you want to do that. Now, speaking of the droid rack, the way you open it is this knob back here on the back, which is not centered on the back of the MTT, and I'm not gonna lie, this might be my biggest gripe about this build because it looks like a freaking trash can sitting on top of the build back here, and that on top of it not being centered is just really annoying in my opinion. But anyway, this is how you open the droid rack. You just twist it and the droid rack comes out the front. It kind of comes out and drops down as you can see here, and the bottom and top doors actually open with it. And despite this trash can looking knob on the back being super ugly, the function as a whole is actually really awesome. Here you can get a better look at how those doors open and close with the actual rack. There's a little chain piece in there connected to the bottom door that kind of pulls it shut when you twist the knob. It's really awesome. And the rack alone without any droids on it honestly doesn't look very good. So to load it up with the whopping 6 battle droids, you kind of just fold them up like this and then they attach to it with their back. Like all MTTs, it's pretty tedious, but when they're on there, it actually does look pretty good. And then again, the function for the droid rack is just so perfect. This might be the best function for any MTT LEGO has ever made. I'm not gonna lie. Although as you can see here, it does kind of slam the droids down pretty hard and they can fall off. Now, despite this great function and the rack itself looking really good, the fact that it's $160 and can only hold 6 battle droids is super underwhelming, especially when you compare it to the 2007 model that can hold 16 battle droids. Moving on to the backside here, you're gonna find even more impressive shaping and layering and detail. I'm not gonna lie, this actually might be the best looking part of the build just because of how detailed they were able to make this. And then from there, you can very easily open up this entire back section, allowing for very roomy and spacious access to this interior. It's actually pretty impressive. However, despite this being a very large and spacious interior, there's really not much going on the inside. Really, the only thing to see are these gun racks that hold the battle droids blasters. Other than that, there's really nothing else. You can, however, get a good look at how the rack function works here, which is pretty cool. And then actually, I guess if you wanted to, you can kind of shove the stap in here, and it actually does fit pretty well. I mean, you can close it all the way back up and it doesn't get in the way, and it also stays out of the way of the rack function too, so I guess that's cool. Now, you might have noticed these giant black wheels down here that honestly do look really goofy when the MTT is opened up like this. From what I know, LEGO hasn't used wheels like this on any of the previous MTTs. However, I have to say they work very well. It slides super easily on a hard surface like this. Here's a look at what the bottom looks like with those 4 black wheels and then 2 wheels on the front. Again, they look goofy when it's opened up, but their function works really well. And they also give the MTT a very nice sort of floating illusion to kind of make it look like it's actually hovering. But that is really all there is to see with this build. Like I said earlier, in terms of just looks alone, this legitimately could be argued to be the best looking MTT LEGO has made. I mean, if I had to rate the build alone without considering the price and without considering the minifigures, I honestly would give this a solid 8.5 out of 10. But for the set as a whole, including the the sloppiness of Commander Bly, as well as the atrocious retail price of $160, I unfortunately have to give this set a 5 out of 10. Like I said earlier, I would not recommend spending more than $120 on this set. For the price they're charging of $160, it should really have more battle droids and at least 2 327th troopers, and also the build should really have about 500 more pieces. So again, do not spend more than $120 on this set. That is my personal recommendation. If you have $160 to spend on a LEGO set, please get either the Star Destroyer or the Ghost. You would 100% feel like you got your money's worth of those two sets. But with that being said, let me know what you guys think about this set down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more videos, you see on the screen right now.